Hello and welcome back to Sloth Reviews. Today we'll be doing a review on the Monster Hunter movie. So I was introduced to Monster Hunter when I was 12, when I got my first PSP, and honestly, I did not understand the game. I got frustrated and I stopped playing after a while. It wasn't until Monster Hunter Freedom Unite that I actually started to enjoy the game and I actually got addicted. And sadly, my PSP died after a while, and I did not get to play any games after that. That was until 2018 when they announced Monster Hunter World, and oh boy, yeah, I did not wait until summer sale. I did not wait for any kind of discount. The moment it released, I bought it and never regret it. Feels like I was back home. So with that kind of background, you can sort of understand my reaction when they announced a Monster Hunter movie, and you can sort of imagine my reaction when they announced who's going to direct that movie. Oh boy! So I was actually I actually gave him the benefit of the doubt. I was like, yeah, it might work. It might work. I mean, he made Death Race, so I wasn't really too bothered about it until I watched the trailer and also read the plot. So when the movie came out, I didn't actually watch it in the movie in the theaters and all that. I just didn't. It killed my hype. And so that was until like a few days ago. It came in Netflix, so I decided, just what, let's do it, and I watch it. And you can sort of understand. I gonna sort of understand why people hate the movie. And so, without further ado, let's start with the review. Okay. So I'm just gonna start with the I'm gonna just start with the plot itself. So, but I'm gonna make it short. Again, I'll make it brief. But I still have to warn you, spoilers ahead. But it's so just so I'm warning you. It's spoilers ahead. But it's already out for a few months, so I don't know why you haven't watched it yet. Okay, so well, if you haven't seen from the trailer, the movie is about. So the movie starts with this team of hunters going to investigate the ancient tower. There was some form of reactions going on, and on the way there, they were attacked by Diablos, and the main character got thrown out, and that's basically the how it ended. And then we cut to Mila's character, Artemis, and her team. They were on the desert investigating a missing squad. So when they get there, they discovered, the team disappeared, and they were caught in a storm, and the storm teleport them to the Monster Hunter world, and they were attacked by the same Diablos, and some of them get killed. They managed to get inside a cave, but only to be attacked by a Nersila. Well, I say a Nersila, but it's actually a swarm of Nersila. Before you know it, all that's left is that girl, Artemis. When they were attacked, she was paralyzed. For some reason, she's the only one who was paralyzed, and she managed to escape, only to then get caught by Tony Jaa's character, the Hunter. Basically, the whole movie is just those two characters trying to get out of that place. Somehow they fought, and then they make up. Then they use Monkey Brain to basically fight the Diablos, win, and meet up with the investigation team at the ancient forest, I guess. And that's and then we have a bit of exposition. Um, they went to the tower, fight a Rathalos. She gets teleport back to her world, bringing the Rathalos with her. Fight, win, and then the movie ends with a dumbass cliffhanger. So basically, that's the movie. I know I make it sound boring, but it really is boring because nothing really exciting happens in the movie. So based on what I said, you can sort of guess where I'm going with this. And where I'm going with this is that the movie really doesn't tell you anything. What I mean is that there's no world building in it. You know, no one explains anything to anyone about anything except for the admiral who talks about the ancient tower and for like 2 seconds, and the only thing he says is like, yeah, we don't know what that thing does. Like that's about as world building as you can get. And it kind of pissed me off a bit because if you haven't played the game, you would know how deep the lore is in the game. And we're talking about it spans more than a decade, and you can even add just a bit more than that. So yeah, but that's about it when it comes to plot. So, but in terms of camera work, I guess it's just typical Hollywood movie. You know, a lot of drone shots and a lot of. I guess it's a typical Hollywood. I think the only problem I have when it comes in terms of technical stuff is like the lighting, especially during the in the cave scenes. Like some of the what is just I can't see anything inside there, and I've turned my brightness way up, and I still can't see anything. I don't know, maybe it's my eyes, I don't know. And the editing of the movie is a bit, yeah, it's so weird, I guess, because especially with some of the action scene feels like it's been cut too fast. Like there was at least supposed to be at least two shots in between, and suddenly it just go from this to this, and it kind of feels jarring. And yeah, and I think the one thing I hate the most is like the slow mo crash scenes. I hate. There are four. Like there's way too many crash scenes in that movie, and it gets old real fast. It's so annoying. I actually yelled because I was like, oh my god, stop it, you know. So that, yeah, that's about as technical as you can get. So so moving on, let's talk about the characters. I've I watch a lot of movies, but even I know like I don't watch enough for me to talk about things in depth, you know. And this particular movie really makes me want to talk about it in depth. And I think the best, especially I think particularly is because the characters. Like I'm no script writer. I read books, but I don't know how to write characters. So when people talk about one-dimensional characters, it's sometimes hard for me to understand what they meant by one-dimensional. But this movie, if you have if you need to give an example of one-dimensional character, this movie is that, you know, this entire movie is just a bunch of one-dimensional characters. I said one-dimensional 20 times. Okay, so like what do I mean by one-dimensional characters? So for some people they say it's like some a character that lack depth. It lacks depth and never seems to learn or grow throughout the story. And that's basically it, you know. These characters has no depth, and nothing changes about them. What I mean by they lack depth is basically there's two main characters in this movie, which is Aramis and the Hunter. Literally, you there's only they each of them has one trait, which is Aramis is the army girl, and basically it. That's about it. There's nothing else you need to know. There's nothing else you can learn about her. And the Hunter is just the Hunter. There's nothing you need to learn. The only thing that I I guess you can say is their character is just that Aramis has someone because she keeps a ring in a box and she keeps it with her. and basically that's about that's about as character development as you can get with her. While the hunter, we know that his family is dead. Yeah, and that's about it for him too. Meanwhile, the rest of the cast is just fan service. It's literally fan service, except for the Emerald who's really news for exposition, and that is just for like 2 seconds to talk about the ancient tower, and that's about it. Okay, so you can kind of understand, like, really there's nothing for me to like about these characters. So that's about it, I guess. So I guess that's the end of the boring stuff. Let me emphasis on boring. Uh, Now let's get on to the more on the topics that I really just want to talk about. I say talk about, but really I just want to rant, and that is the first thing that drives me crazy was the first thing that drives me crazy about this movie is the music. Why did you think synth is the best way to go for a movie about monsters? So, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, is that one of the best things about the Monster Hunter franchise is the music. There were so many iconic music that you, even if you just heard like 2 seconds of it, you would, it's instantly recognizable. And the fact that they didn't use even just a bit of that is, I want to say, it's someone need, someone needs to answer for that. Not only did you not use the music from Monster Hunter, you decided techno, synthwave, whatever this is the best option. Somehow, someone in the boardroom decided that this music with the techno pop thing is somehow the better option rather than just playing Proof of a Hero. And yeah, okay, so that that's about it when it comes to music. And on to the more heavy stuff, which is we can talk about nonsensical plot, and we can talk about the cinematography, we can talk about characters, and we can talk about the music. But I think what I hate the most about this movie is just it's just Monster Hunter in name. It's just Monster Hunter in name, and that just rubs me the wrong way. I mean, first of all, the fact that you decided an Alice in Wonderland story plot is somehow the way to go with a Monster Hunter movie, and the fact that we spend a majority of the movie just between the character Artemis and the hunter just trying to get out of the desert. And not even cut to the other cast, it's just them. I actually watch the timer, and I say about an hour, maybe about an hour. I say about an hour of it's just these two characters. And the fact that in this movie they decided the best place to shoot, or the best location in the game would be the desert, when there is so many regions, there's so many locations with so many ecosystem, with so many biodiversity, and they decided a desert is the best place they're going to shoot the premise of the movie, the location of this movie. And while we're at the end, let's talk about the monsters themselves. The fact that the monsters don't behave the way it would in game. Now I know, like, I I'm gonna sound like an angry nerd, like toxic fans and all that. But if you're going to make a movie about a certain game, couldn't you news couldn't you at least make it 50% accurate? For example, let's talk about the monster's behavior. Let's start with the first monster we were introduced, which is the Diablos. If you watch the movie and you've never played the game, what is your impression of the Diablos? It's a monster that attacks anything. It stalks its prey for some reason. and he can dig inside sands, and that's about it. Did you know in the game Diablos is a herbivore? It eats cactus, and that is extremely territorial. And you know that it roams the desert. And when I say roams the desert, it means it goes everywhere. It doesn't just stay in that one position. Of course, you wouldn't know that if you haven't played the game. But the fact that in the movie, Diablos is represented that way, like it's a freaking worm monster in Tremor, it can it pissed me off. Let's talk about Nesila, the spider creatures. I've never played Monster Hunter 4, because it's in Nintendo. But I've watched people play. When you watch the movie, what is Nesila? It stalks in the dark, it paralyzes people, it lays its eggs. That's about it. Did you know it's a solitary monster? Did you know that it can walk during daylight? Did you know that it wears other monsters' skin to camouflage and to intimidate other monsters? You wouldn't know that if you never played the game. Instead, what we get is a Sherlock knockoff, or maybe it's Broodmother. For Rathalos, I'm gonna give it a bit of a leeway. In the movie, it's described as the guardian of the ancient tower, and it's nigh indestructible. It's very aggressive and all that. Okay, so the reason I'm giving it a leeway is because I feel like it's not out of the realms of possibility. What I mean by this is in the movie it's described as the ancient civilization using the Rathalos as a guardian, and even in the game we don't really know what the ancient civilization is capable of because it's lost time, and according to some of the texts they are a very technologically advanced civilization. So I'm going to give that a bit of a leeway, and that is as far as I can tolerate when it comes to law. I mean, why I'm pissed off is a bit is because they choose all of these based on cool factors. Rathalos obviously it's because it's a staple. It's the flagship monster of every Monster Hunter game. And they pick Diablos because it's cool and can dig in the sand, and Nesila because it's scary. When even if it's just in that particular region, which is the desert, there were so many other monsters they could have used, like Vespoids, Genprace, or the Cephalos, which, by the way, did appear in the movie, but as a 2-second jump scare. When, in my opinion, it would have been the better choice that compared to the Diablos. And it shows that the people who made the movie don't really care. If they care, they would have at least researched a bit more than just the name. They would have known the law of the franchise and all of that. And if they research a bit, they would have known that in game there is a ship that travels the desert and it doesn't look like the Black Pearl. So I guess there's more that I want to talk about, but I know that even if I talk about it, I know that only I would care since I'm a fan of the game, and obviously this movie is not made for me. So now I guess I understand when comic book fans or game gamers are worried when you know when they announce new movies based on what they like. Of course they're gonna get worried. I mean, look what happened to Monster Hunter. I mean, like the guy who made this movie is also responsible for two other video game movies, and you know how that turned out. So I guess that's about it from me. Sloth reviews out.